This video is a proof that Quran is in line with science. The Quran contains information that could not have been known 1400 years ago. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, lived in the middle of the Arabian desert with no electricity or technology available. People lived off crops and moved on camelbacks. None of them had a clue about probes, scanners, or satellites. Yet still, it is in this holy book that we were told about the estuaries. An estuary is a place where fresh water meets the ocean but do not mix due to an invisible barrier underwater. Oceanologists like Jacques-Yves Cousteau have recently discovered that through the use of submarines. Now who in the middle of the desert could make such a discovery in the oceans? It is written in the Quran that the universe is in constant expansion, which means that it keeps getting bigger and bigger, and the stars getting further from one another. And it wasn't until 1920 that scientists discovered that thanks to sophisticated tools such as telescopes. Who could know this information 1400 years ago? We know nowadays that mountains are some sort of pillars that have roots, and they help reduce the frequency of earthquakes. Recent studies have shown that mountains help stabilize the Earth's crust. Who, again, would know that mountains would be anchored as pillars to help stabilize the Earth 1400 years ago? It is written in the Quran that God created the seven skies and the earth with the same number. Today, and thanks to probes, we found that the planet is made of 7 layers: the solid internal core, the liquid outer core, layer D, lower mantle, intermediate coat, upper coat, and the lithosphere. Do you think it would have been possible for a normal man in the middle of the desert to discover such thing with no technology? It is also mentioned that plants have female and male sexes. This was only discovered between 1660 and 1720 by Rudolf Jacob Comerarius. The Quran explains step-by-step embryology, or how a fetus is formed inside the mother's womb. Professor Keith Moore, winner of the Nobel Prize of Physiology in Canada, confirmed that it occurs in the exact same way the Quran describes it, and he affirms that these facts could not have been possibly known 1400 years ago. All of these data were transmitted to Prophet Muhammad by God. For instance, Quran says that the embryo has the shape of a leech, and if we look at the scanner images, we would see that it looks exactly like a leech, and it clutches on a wall in the mother's womb. And therefore, there is no more precise description than this one. And it was only thanks to scanners and technology that scientists could come up with this information. Who could have known that 1400 years ago? To those who claim that Quran copies previous civilizations, you must know that people who made hypotheses before weren't always right. And if we suppose that Quran has indeed copied the work of previous civilizations, how come it could elicit between right and wrong? And how could the Prophet be so sure about what he had to say? The Quran has over 500 verses in line with science with no error or contradiction. Technology today does not contradict but confirm every verse of the Quran. It is forbidden today to make an abortion after 4 months of pregnancy in most countries. It is said in Islam that God insufflates the soul in the fetus within 120 days, or 4 months. We know that the universe started as an infinitely hot and dense mass that inflated and then exploded, or what is known as the Big Bang Theory. The unfolding of the Big Bang is described in the Quran, and it wasn't discovered until the 20th century, while the Quran was written way before that in the 7th century. The Quran affirms that it is the female bees who collect the pollen from flowers. And this was proved by scientists who recently discovered that female bees happen to have organs that do not exist in the male body. So again, who could have known that male bees do not have the appropriate organs to collect pollen 1400 years ago? Long time ago, people believed the earth to be flat. And it wasn't until 1577 that Francis Drake traveled around the planet and proved it to be round. 1,000 years earlier, the Quran did not only confirm that the earth was round, but it also compared it to an ostrich egg, which has a geospherical shape. How could a man in the middle of the desert, with no satellites flying around the earth, know the exact shape of the planet? I mean, seriously, who could have known all these facts with no technology available? And these were only few examples in the Quran. As I mentioned earlier, there are over 500 verses talking about science, biology, astronomy, and physics. The Quran does not only contain scientific miracles, it has also some digital and linguistic wonders. Let's take an example. The word earth is mentioned 13 times in the Quran, while the word sea is mentioned 32 times. Now, if we add 13 to 32, we would get 45. And if we transform that to a percentage, we would have 32 out of 45, which equals 71%. And 71 is the percentage of water on the planet. The other 13 would be 29%, and it represents the percentage of land on the planet Earth. Do you really think that this is pure coincidence? Let's check some more examples. The word paradise is mentioned 77 times, and so is the word hell. The word faith appears 25 times, and the word atheism appears 25 times as well. The word dunya, or the worldly life, appears 115 times, and so does the word akhirah, or the afterlife. The words angels and demons are both mentioned 88 times. Men 23 times, women 23 times. Good deeds 167 times, and sins 167 times. The 7 skies are mentioned 7 times in the Quran. The language of this holy book is very poetic. Half of it rhymes, and it contains palindromes. A palindrome is a word that has the same meaning even if spelled backwards, just like the words Bob and kayak. It is quite easy to find such words, but a whole sentence is nearly impossible, and even if found, it would be meaningless. The Quran has many palindromic sentences with very deep meaning. To conclude, I will give you my last example. In the Quran, Allah said, Allah has not made for a man 2 hearts in his interior. And here, of course, he means that a man cannot be righteous and a hypocrite at the same time. Allah has given him only 1 heart, which contains either faith or disbelief. But if we analyze the literal meaning of this sentence, it is true that human beings do not have 2 hearts, but 1. Then why did God here use the word men instead of human beings and did not talk about women? That's simply because women can get pregnant. And when pregnant, women do not only bear 1 heart, but 2. Theirs and the one of the baby. This is the end of my video. I hope you guys found it fruitful and enjoyed watching. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. High above all is Allah, the King, the Truth. Be not in haste with the Quran before its revelation to thee is completed, but say, O my Lord, advance me in knowledge. Sadaqallahu al-Azim.